This is for Nellie. I remember the very first time that my grandmother, a pastor, asked me to stand up in front of a church congregation and recite a prayer that she taught me. I walked up to the pulpit. I held onto the microphone. I closed my eyes and I recited that prayer. My entire body trembling, and the whole time I was hoping it would just be over. It was an out-of-body experience. And when it was over, I dropped the mic and ran to the pew where my parents were seated. And all I could do afterwards was to drop my head into my hands and whisper to myself, why would she do that to me? Why would she make me stand and speak in front of all of those people? And when I say all of those people, I mean a crowd of maybe 13. But in that moment, it felt like 3,000. Now let's fast forward to today. While I'm still very much Nellie, I'm no longer the quiet, shy girl from that Sunday morning in church. I am a 20-year veteran and executive in financial services. I lead large, complex transactions, work with global teams, and speak regularly about the state of my business. And sometimes those speaking engagements occur at a moment's notice, much like that Sunday morning in church. So the question becomes, who invested in me? Who got me to this point? My response, fearless women. My grandmother was born in 1909 in Albany, Georgia. She faced many challenges during her lifetime as a Black woman living in the segregated South. She instilled in me a deep sense of faith. She prayed with me, and she laughed at all of my jokes. I fondly remember sneaking into her bedroom long after my bedtime, just so that I could give her my very best Ed McMahon impersonation of, "Here's Johnny." Oh, we would laugh. I would climb into bed with her, and then she would uncover our secret stash of bubble gum. And sometimes she would even indulge me and ask for an encore performance. But most importantly, she listened to me. It was through her lead that my mother, her daughter, followed her example and gave me the space and support to explore the arts through acting classes as well as visual arts classes, which drove my interest to subjects like geometry. The reality is that I was a quiet, shy girl in a loving but larger-than-life family. Being quiet was my safe space. I needed to find my voice. The arts provided that space. I want to talk to you about space. Space to learn, space to create, space to innovate. The most powerful places for any young girl are in the spaces where absolutely nothing is written. It was in those unmarked places where I found my own power and potential. My mother and grandmother used the arts as a catalyst to bringing my voice into the room. A voice that now my family says just won't shut up. I started my career in one of the most creative areas of asset management. And so if you have guessed corporate tax, mergers and acquisitions law, you've guessed absolutely correctly. But all jokes aside, for me, practicing tax law was like problem solving within the confines of the law. It was like putting together the pieces of a puzzle, much like I did in that arts geometry class as a young girl in Brooklyn. In that class, we created collages using geometric shapes and elements as a way to introduce us to spatial thinking. The arts have always been part of my journey. And although you may not immediately spot the connection, let me tell you, I am a prime example of someone whose life and career benefited from the arts. Like many of you, my career has not been linear. It has required creativity, ingenuity, and an ability to pivot. The arts have been part of the way of how I solve problems for business, and this has been the case for the past 20 years. About 6 years ago, I decided to take improv comedy classes as a way to creatively hone my communication and presentation skills. Comedians are some of the best storytellers. So whether you are making a presentation or just relaying a concept, you're telling a story. And at the end, I perform with the troupe. The final result, I may or may not have a lucrative career in comedy. My dad jokingly says, "Nellie, all those classes and you're still not funny." Now, regardless of what you think of my comedic prowess or lack thereof, I had fun. I also learned a valuable concept that I now use in business. It is the yes and concept. And in the yes and concept, you accept a statement that your troupe mate has made, and you build upon it to create a story. And in comedy, hopefully it's a funny one. I've used the yes and concept in corporate settings as part of team brainstorming exercises, as well as collaborative exercises to design business solutions. Improv comedy is not the only art form I've used throughout my career. I've been taking acting classes ever since I was a child. And while initially they were used to help me with my public speaking skills, they've become a catalyst as I've learned to be flexible and have the ability to pivot. Like any business leader, I have to be able to quickly analyze a situation, make an informed decision, and if necessary, change direction in the best interest of the business and its stakeholders. And like any successful business leader, I have to remain strategic and focused on the future. As a result, I have used vision boarding, both personally and professionally, as a way to visualize possibility. The arts have aided in my journey as the Chief Innovation Officer of my career. I now lead business strategy for an investment team, as well as run an innovation business. The arts led to creativity, which have led to innovation. As my good friend would say about me, don't put her in a box, she's claustrophobic. There is now a growing recognition of the arts as a critical component for every child's education. Recent studies have found that the arts significantly contribute to a child's developmental areas in areas such as critical thinking and problem solving, proficiency in subjects like mathematics, as well as self-esteem and self-expression. In fact, a recent meta-analysis of 62 studies found that students who studied music had a higher capacity for mathematics. That same study found that students who studied dance showed a higher capacity for areas such as social tolerance, self-esteem, and self-expression. Dr. Mae Jemison made history as the first Black woman to travel into space. As a former astronaut and engineer, she was someone whose life and career benefited from exposure to the arts. She enjoyed both dance and music, and her family encouraged her to pursue both. My grandmother has been gone since 2008. And although my life and career is not totally tied to and directly tied to the arts, it still guides me today. The two are inextricably linked. During a time where children are facing countless challenges, it is important that we provide them with the key life skills provided by exposure to the arts. The goal is not to force a young girl into a specific career, but rather to expose her to every possibility available to her. The most powerful places are in the blank spaces. They represent her potential. My call to action, you are part of the solution. And so I offer you 3 key ways to honor and nurture the blank space for every young girl in your life. 1, recognize that every young girl has massive potential, no matter who she is, no matter where she comes from, and no matter what she looks like. 2, we have to give young girls multiple opportunities to exercise their potential, whether it be dance, physics, or lacrosse. and she should be empowered to write her own story. And thirdly, and most importantly, don't you dare pick up the pen and write for her. You must honor, nurture, and protect her blank space. People protected me. They protected my blank space. The most powerful places are in the blank spaces. This is for Nellie. This is for Nellie. And you know what? This right here is for Nellie. Protect the blank space. Thank you.